Good morning, everybody. Here we are, Friday morning. We made it through another week, and we have this wonderful, blessed opportunity that we have to be in God's Word. And this morning, I want to go back to the book of Exodus. And what we're going to look at this afternoon is dealing with the plagues and with Moses and Pharaoh. And I think there's a very valuable lesson that we can learn from this period of time. We're going to look at down towards the end of the plagues, and all this time Moses has been saying, the Lord has said, let my people go. And Pharaoh says, no, 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 no. And then he begins to break a little bit and says, oh, okay, some of you can go, and you can go this far and whatnot. But I think there's a very important lesson for us to understand within this. And I want to notice something here in Exodus chapter 10. And I want to start in verse 17. It says, Then Pharaoh's servant said to him, How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not yet know that Egypt is destroyed? So Moses and Aaron were brought again to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go, serve the Lord your God. Who are the ones that are going? Moses said, We will go with our young and our old, with our sons and our daughters, with our flocks and our herds. We will go, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. Then he said to them, The Lord had better be with you when I let you and your little ones go. Beware, for evil is ahead of you. Not so. Go now, you who are men, and serve the Lord, for that is what you desired. And they were driven out of Pharaoh's presence. Now, notice this. So here, Pharaoh is beginning to crack a little bit. But here's the point that we really need to grasp and understand. The command was, let my people go. The men, the women, the children, and all of their flocks. All were to go. And so Moses says, Pharaoh says, okay, the men can go. Look what Moses said, not so. Not so. Pharaoh says that. Says, no, I'm not going to let everybody go. So what is he doing? He's disobeying God, isn't he? He's going to at this particular point, he said, okay, I'm going to let some go, but I'm not going to do everything God is requesting. Because it's not so. Go now, you who are men, and serve the Lord. See, he was only going to let the men go. No women, no children, no flocks. I think there's a very powerful point for us to understand in this. God said, men, women, children, and the flocks. We can look at a lot of things and make a lot of examples, with this very basic principle. And so many times what we find in the religious world are people are more like Pharaoh than maybe they would like to acknowledge. For example, God tells us in the New Testament that the instrument that we are to use to sing is our voice. Ephesians 5:19, Colossians 3 and verse 16, all right, and other passages as well. Making melody with our heart. That's the instrument. That's the instrument. No. I'm going to sing, but I'm going to sing with some mechanical instruments as well. God says that men are to be elders or pastors. 1 Timothy chapter 3. Men say, nope, not so. Women can be pastors as well. Jesus says he's going to build his church. Men say, no, one church is just as good as another church. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me. But men say, you know what? Even people who profess to be Christians, oh yes, if you want to believe in Muhammad and and all this other kind of stuff, well, that's okay. You're going to go to heaven too. The Catholic Church is really turning towards that as well. And we could just go on and on and on and on. But we need to learn a very powerful lesson here, is that when God specifies exactly what something is to do, we are to leave it alone. We can go on. All right, at the end of that, he sends the locust. Well, Pharaoh gets humbled a little bit and he says, oh, all right, okay, go pray for me. All right, now in Exodus chapter 10 again, after the days of darkness, verse 24, then Pharaoh called to Moses and said, go, serve the Lord, only let your flocks and your herds be kept back. Let your little ones also go. Well, that's getting better, isn't it? That's getting a whole lot closer to what God said, but is it what God said? But Moses said, you must also give us sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also shall go with us, not a hoof shall be left behind. For we must take some of them to serve the Lord our God, and even we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. Well, Pharaoh wouldn't want to do that. He gave a little bit, didn't he? He gave a little bit of ground. All right, now the men can go, and the flocks can go. All right, but the women and children, they ain't going. So has he really done what God said to do? No. Has he agreed to some of what God said? Absolutely. There's no denying that. But doing some of what God said is not equivalent with doing what God said. You see, what a powerful example that we need to understand. Because we have this mindset in the religious world is that really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what God says. In essence, really, this book is really irrelevant. Because if you want to go to a church that fits you, fine. If you want to believe this about the Bible, that's fine. If you want to believe this idea of Jesus, well, that's fine too. So what purpose does the Bible really even serve? If that's going to be our attitude towards God, if things just don't matter, then why do we even open our Bible? Because we're just going to do what we want to do anyway. What a powerful example. And we all know the account of Pharaoh. It didn't end well. The text goes on. It tells us that where the firstborn was killed, even his own son. Well, whose fault was that? It was Pharaoh's. Why? Because God told him, this is what I want to do. But there was a way that could have been stopped. And that would have been by obeying God. Friends, I just want to leave you with this. Same thing goes spiritually. We may very well die spiritually and spend our eternity in a devil's hell because we did some of what God wanted. Some or a form of what God requires. And not doing what He said and requires. That's why I said earlier in our study this morning, we may be more like Pharaoh than we care to mention. Doing some or conforming to some of what God said is still not doing what God said. There's your dose of God's Word. I hope we'll do you some good. Hope we'll get your wheels turning as it should. Hey, hope you all have a great day. Lord willing, we'll get back Monday and we'll get us another dose of God's Word. We'll see you then.